Okay, example number 3 gives some terminology that's going to be really important. So we get the vertex, and then we get things called the vertex and the co-vertex. So if you've read your definition slide, you already know what this is. So the vertex is an endpoint of the major axis. So we know where the major axis ends. Then the co-vertex is the endpoint of the minor axis. So this is a good amount of information. We know the center, we know where the major axis ends, and we know where the minor axis ends. Now, of course, there's two vertices because there's two endpoints of the major axis, and then there's two co-vertices, two endpoints of the minor axis. But really, since that A and that B is the center to those points, either the vertex or the co-vertex, we don't really need both of them. We just need one. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm actually going to sketch this out. So I'm going to just sketch a little coordinate plane here. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to kind of guesstimate. So the center being -9, -7. So -9, we'll call that there. Then -7, we'll call that there. So that's the center. Then the vertex, so again, major axis, so this is going to tell us our orientation right here, which way the major axis is going, is +3, but also -7. Do you see how they share that y value? So that means that right there, that's going to be your A value. So I can already tell that this is going to be oriented horizontally, so I know exactly which formula I'm using. Okay, so let me label these. So here's your center, -9, -7. Here's your vertex at 3, -7, sharing that y value. Then here, co-vertex, -9, -1. That shares an x value. So that is your minor axis. So we'll just do kind of a rough sketch of that. So that is, excuse me if I could talk today. This is oriented horizontally. Okay. And then all I have to do, now if I had a graph, and some of you, this might be enough to figure out your A value and your B value, but I kind of get nervous doing that, so I like to rely on a formula. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the distance formula to find these two numbers. So the first distance formula I'm going to do is to find the A value. I already have the center, so now all I have to do is find A and B. So A uses the center and the vertex, so -9, -7, and 3, -7. So I'm actually going to write that to the side here. These are the 2 points I'm using. So the distance formula is the square root of, and this is in one of your slides if you need it, x2 minus x1, so 3 minus -9 squared, plus y2 minus y1. Now, here's something you can notice that might make your work a little bit quicker if you're comfortable with doing this. Since these are the same numbers, when you subtract those, it's really just going to be 0 because that turns into -7 plus 7. So this is technically going to cancel out and not even matter. But I know some people really like to see that complete work. I'm one of those people. I have to do the entire formula. But if you find any shortcuts, as long as you're careful with them and as long as they're mathematically correct, you'll be fine. So all we have to do is type that in the calculator. If you need help with that, let me know. I've done that in a set of notes, so I'm not going to do that here. But when you type it in the calculator, it is 12. So your A value is 12. Then our B value, that's going to be the center to the co-vertex, -9, 7, -7 to -9, -1. So I'm going to do, again, the distance formula. Now using those other two numbers. But the reason I needed to sketch that out, kind of sketch it out, remember A has to be your major axis, B has to be your minor axis. You cannot get those flip-flopped, okay? So again, let's do the distance formula. So x2 minus x1, if you notice, now they share the x value, so really that's going to cancel out and be 0 if you wanted a shortcut. Then the y is -1 minus -7 squared. Type that in the calculator. I'm not going to bother doing that for you, but you do get 6. So now we have the information we need. We have the center, we have the A, we have the B, we have which way it's oriented. So it is oriented horizontally. So I am going to write that down here along with the formula. Brain research shows the more we write something down, the more likely we are to remember it. So the horizontal formula, the longest value goes with the x. The short value is going to go with the y, equal to 1. So here is our equation. Here we go. So the center, remember the center was -9, -7. So those negatives become pluses. Go ahead and get that center out of the way. A was 12, so we square it and make that 144. B was 6, we square it, equal to 1. There's your final answer.